Well, hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm old too.
I know we're a bit stretched this morning, but have you been briefed on the case, sir?
And I'm Melvin Pena, and I'm Yoo-Hoo.
Of course I have, but the briefing was, well, it was brief.
It worked last time. I figured I'd try it out again.
It was a good one, so keep it, Well, folks, we're here, and we're going to do some more Big Finish. Imagine that, because me and Vic had run out of Eccleston Doctor Who, so we are on our second set. But this is the first one I'll talk with Melvin about, and I'm looking forward to it because I literally 15 minutes ago probably stopped listening to it for I guess it's my third listen through. Mm-hmm. And it is a set. What is this, the third set?
This is the
second set.
I want to say, yes, the second.
Second
it's
set.
The one, so it's the one right after Ravagers.
Yes, which I was under-impressed with. But This one, I'm definitely not under-impressed. But let's. What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip to the synopsises of all three of them. So I only have to record it once. Mm-hmm. And then we'll be right back. Respond to All Calls. A Ninth Doctor Adventures, Volume 2. Story 1. Girl Deconstructed by Lisa McMullen. Marnie is missing. She hasn't run away as her dad fears. Marnie is still very much at home, but not quite as she was. The Doctor joins forces with missing persons detective Jana Lee to help solve the mystery of a girl who has gone to pieces. Story 2. Fright Motif by Tim Foley. In post-world Paris, musician Artie Berger has lost his mojo but gained a predator, something that seeps through the cracks of dissonance to devour the unwary. Luckily for Artie, the Doctor is here. Unluckily for everyone, he needs bait to trap a monster. Story 3. Planet of the End by Timothy X. Attack. The Doctor arrives on a mausoleum world for sightseeing and light pedantry, correcting its planetary records. The resident AI has other ideas. Deep within a tomb, something stirs. Okakis is the last resting place of a species far too dangerous to exist, and the Doctor is its way back. Director? Helen Goodwin. Producer David Richardson. Originally released August 2021. All that lovely information from the liner notes for Doctor Who, Respond to All Calls for Big Finish. Get this, it's a great set. Okay, we're back. Well, let's start with the first one, which is Girl Destructed by Lisa McMullen.
Deconstructed.
That's true. Girl Deconstructed by Lisa McMullen. I'm going to start on this one. I love hearing Scottish voices. It makes me think of my grandpa. I love the Scottish accent. The all-Scottish cast is great. Mm-hmm. I think it's a really good story, too.
Yep.
I think and I could see this being produced in the first Davies era. Mm-hmm. This is a script that would have worked with the level of special effects they used, and for stories where they chose not to have special effects to save money. Mm-hmm. Everybody's invisible. It's just a voice. It's a curtain move, so they could do everything physically. So I could see that all being done. So it really pulled the story into my head. And I notice it when they shoot, because they shoot in Cardiff, when they shoot in those very narrow English houses. Mm-hmm. Something like what a Baltimore townhouse would be, or I grew up outside Old Alexandria. They have them, and they're just narrow.
Yep.
Everything's kind of stacked on top of each other. So I could see it all. I could see it from all the old British TV I've digested. I just think it was great. And not even to get to the detail, I think everything about it kind of lined up to be a great story.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. The Lisa McMullen, the first story out of the gate, it's really grounded, and exactly along the lines of what you're talking about, where you can see the kitchen. You can see, it's a what they call a kitchen sink drama, where you're dealing with actual people's actual lives, and that's one of my favorite things when Doctor Who does that, especially the RTD era. And this is really in line with that idea of a Doctor Who story is happening, but it's real people that are involved. Yeah. And you never get the sense that these people are anything but real.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then grounded is such a great word, and that is something with Davies stuff is because because when he started that first season, it was about Rose.
Yeah.
It's about Rose. Yep. It's about the companion, and it's about the Doctor is going to have a family.
Mm-hmm. And you're in their house. I mean, that's the other thing that's extraordinary. Because I mean, this story. I mean, it's about that. Obviously it's a father and daughter, but you could extrapolate out to any parent-child relationship, any kind of parent-child struggle, those sort of personality conflicts that you go through when you're a tween and a teen. Like you can feel it. You can feel it.
Yeah. It reminds me kind of like, God, Vic loves this one, and I'm going to blank on the name, and it's one I like. The one where they go to the coronation. It's when it's in the coronation and.
Oh, the one with the wire.
Yes.
They go to the 50s. Yeah. But it's Fear Her. Fear Her is what it's called.
Fear Her. Yeah. No, that's not Fear Her.
Yeah, it is. Oh no, you're right. You're wrong. I'm thinking of the one with the Olympics.
Yeah, but you're in that kid with the dad's house watching.
Yes.
You're sitting in the living room with that family, that really messed up family.
Yep.
But they're all real people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I liked about this one. And I like the alien. I like the high concept. I like American science fiction.
Yeah.
But what I like about British science fiction, I say this over and over again, is they don't care about rules. They're just going to make up the rules as they go. So that the kid he says it, the ghost, the friend who can't rematerialize because he's been invisible for so long.
Yes.
It's about I willed myself away. I made myself forgotten, I think's the line.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's that thing about you said tweens and teens.
Yep.
I don't know if you're a Buffy fan where there's one where Clea Duvall's the guest and she becomes invisible because no one notices her.
I've seen. I'm familiar with the run. And the one we were talking about earlier is called the Idiot's Lantern.
Idiot's Lantern. I'm a big Gatiss fan. I should remember.
Yeah,
that.
No, me too.
People bust his chops, but
I was about to say the same thing.
I was like, why do you bust his chops? He writes really good Doctor Who. It's kind of old school.
Yes, and the thing about Mark Gatiss penned episodes is people do give him a lot of flack, but the thing is, as far as Doctor Who being able to do any genre. He is really the one writer, especially throughout the RTD era, but also in the Moffat era, who actually does do multiple genres. And I think that's what rubs people the wrong way is that they want a specific sort of narrative through line, and he uses the cliches and tropes of the genres that he's working in. So he's not giving people what they want. I think that rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah, I love most of his. I think I like every one of his. I don't think there's one I don't. Victory of the Daleks bugs me a little bit. Yeah. The Knighted Benetton of Daleks, really. That's not his That's not his fault. That's someone else's fault. But I like this one.
You're right. And there is that. It's a little bit of a strange thing that the way they treat the Douglas character, I think is his name, the guy who goes missing.
Yeah.
Like 20 or 30 years before, 20 years before. Because there's an implication where, when Marnie toward the end is saying, let's do this new experiment to see if I can, if we can get in touch with the Seraphine, I think they're called.
Seraphine, yeah.
Because I don't want to go the rest of my life being here as an incorporeal sort of being just waiting for death. And the implication then is that, the cops or the missing persons, officer's friend has been doing that, which he doesn't seem, you would think he would be completely insane, and he seems very grounded for a creature that's been incorporeal for 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's the only real inconsistency for me in this story is that there's
that he didn't go mad.
Which is the implication that Marnie gives, but it clearly hasn't happened to her friend Douglas, who seems very, very well adjusted for a guy who has been scattered into atoms living in his own house for 20 years.
Yeah. That is. But I thought of it now that you say that, it's making me think. But I thought of it this way.
I sort of glossed over it.
Well, no. I kind of gave it a think because he's a very level-headed friend.
Yes.
He's that friend. Yes. So he's kind of like, and he knows it's his fault that he's invisible on some level.
Yep.
He knows that whatever happened to him kind of coincided with what was wrong with him. You know how we all have our own little tics.
Yep.
I got it as he understood his tick and kind of went, wow, I did this to I willed myself away because I felt unseen.
And he got used to it, though, also, which is another interesting thing. And again, just I think that may have been that sort of what we started out talking about is that sort of tween angst. So, I mean, of course, she's going to give it the worst case scenario treatment. Like, if I'm not put back together, this is what my life will certainly look like. And it will certainly be, a hell on earth. Whereas the other guy is like, he's been there. And he's to the point where even though they can't put him back together, he even says explicitly, I don't know what I would do with a body now if I had one. I'm okay. He's gotten used to
he
is and where he is, which is another RTD thing. Like the Moaning Myrtle character in the Love and Monsters episode who turns into a pavement slab at the end. Like there's a that is definitely an RTD thing where you change physical states and are somehow okay with that, which I love it.
I like it.
They throw 20 birthday parties. I love that.
I thought it was great. I love one of my favorite moments is his. It's when they're talking about the guy she had a crush on in school.
Yes.
And he was a prat.
Yep.
And then she goes, and he goes, what happened to him? And she goes, I put him in prison for robbing someplace. and he does what any friend would go, see, I told you.
Yep.
It's a great moment.
Which again, that's what this script the script really sings because of the reality of the characters. Like the things that they say, the way they interact with each other, even if they don't, people who don't specifically know each other, like the father and the missing persons officer, like they don't really know each other per se, but having been thrown together, just the way that they talk, the way that they talk to each other, the way they talk about their lives, it's so grounded, it's so relatable, it's so real that even with all this crazy stuff happening around them, and the doctor tracking down, invisible aliens that travel on starlight. Like there's a lot of really crazy stuff here that doesn't ever get out of hand because the characters who are anchoring the narrative, they do just that. They bring it to earth. They bring it into your home.
I think also Eccleston he's in the groove.
Yes.
Much better than he is in the first. He's really good in the first. My problems with the Ravengers is the scripts.
Yeah.
Not him, but he's really in the groove in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when they says everybody's materializing feet first. Why? Gravity. It's a great line, and and he goes, and I listened to the beginning of the behind the scenes on this, and what he said he liked about this, he said two things about this Lisa McMullen script was one, it was very filmable.
Yep.
Which is true. Like we already said that. It's very true. And it's full of fun. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I always tried to have this doctor have fun, and I always had fun playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we know he has some problems with how people were treated on the set and how it was grueling.
Yeah.
And he's, he just looking out for the crew and other people. And I really appreciate that he's honest about that. He never calls anybody out because I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
It made me uncomfortable. But you don't know that in the show because he's a fun doctor. Christopher Eccleston doesn't play a lot of fun people.
No, and that's right. I mean, there's a quality to his voice, which is something that really blew me away the first time I heard this set, and then revisit. And then this was already like a couple of years ago this came out.
Yeah, it's been because there's 6 sets out now, almost 7.
So August 2021 is when it came out, and the thing is, like revisiting it these last couple weeks in anticipation of doing this podcast, it hits you again. Like you can tell he is giving it the exact same amount of effort and concentration and focus that he would in any other program where he had to memorize lines or be on set or like hit marks or whatever. Like you're not getting a phoned in performance here. He does that turn on a dime thing where he can be very serious one moment and like giving he's not the sort of speechifying doctor that you would get with 10 or 11 or 12. His speeches tend to be a little shorter, but it's because he's so action oriented and so focused on the result he's looking to get.
Yeah.
And his vocal performance is the other thing about this story in particular, and we'll get to all three, when we do a little overview, but he really, there's the groundedness of the characters of the other actors and the situation they're in. And there's also an urgency. There's an immediacy to Eccleston's performance where when he's talking, like I almost hold my breath, like when he talks, because it's like he is the power of his voice is it's magnetic, it's electric.
The way I see him very similar to McGann in that way, to where how the actor drives the pace.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's driving the pace, the urgency, and then he'll have his little quips and he'll have his little doctory little barbs and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he's just so good. I think, and I've talked for years on this podcast about I respect jobbing actors, why I love Peter Davison so much. There's a reason those actors work a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Not always because they're good. They are good, because if they were bad, they wouldn't get it. But it's also because they're easy to work with, and they give you more than you ask.
Yeah.
And they're always going to come in and give you 110%. They're going to understand the material before they get there. They're going to have a grasp of it. They're going to understand all the nuances of what they're doing. And I think that's why he is so good at this, and you can hear it in his voice.
Yep.
It's because he's and that's why, and Briggs, it took Briggs how many years to get him to do it? It's because he works.
Yeah.
I don't think he takes breaks. So. Mm-hmm. Well, let's move on to the next one. Hold on a second. Get these in the right order. Check the notes. Next one is called Fright Motif.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pseudo-historical. I'll let you go first. What's your take on this one?
This is another one that I just loved this story. And again, it's so grounded. It's so realistic. The problems that the characters have are so relatable and so chthonic, I guess. Earthy is the word for it. Like there's nothing fantastical about the problems that he's having. Like the character of Artie Berger, who's sort of I guess you would call him the protagonist, sort of the hero, even though, I don't think there is a secondary character in this story, because, his sort of partner / best friend, Zazie, who's played by Gemma Whelan.
God, I love her.
Yes. I mean, she is incredible. And then the sort of landlord / they never really out and out say it, but you sort of get the hint that, which I also love, that again, this is like you're living with, and these aren't just relationships; these are actual lived-in adult relationships, which is fantastic. But his sort of landlord / again, I think it's sort of assumed that he is Artie's current lover, the guy who owns or runs the hotel.
Yeah. The concierge. He's the concierge of the hotel.
But these three characters, they're just, again, they're so absorbing. Their problems are real. The things that they're going through they make you feel. I'm starting to choke up even thinking about this. And, I've listened to these stories now, I want to say 4 times. And this is the great thing about these particular stories. And it's the thing I love about the great Big Finish stories, is the repeat listen value.
Yeah. This is a set that I wish I'd listened to again earlier, because I literally finished recording a podcast at about 9:30 this morning, and this is what I listened to. I took a break to watch the Romans, because I got the season 2 box set, and I was up to the Romans. I went, I'll take a break and then listen to this. But I breezed through the first 2 episodes. I did the dishes, I made breakfast, I did some other things. But I was, if I missed something, I had to go back, so I didn't want to miss anything. And I could see France.
Yep.
The Artie, the main guy. I guess he is the protagonist, but to see his 2 best friends dance around with him, and that they have a fully connected relationship.
Yes, exactly.
That it's like, those friends you have 2 friends who don't really like each other, but they behave for the most part because they both like you, and that's a good thing. I like him, so let's not argue, even though you're a jerk, But not Artie, but the other guy,
the concierge.
Yeah, the concierge. He can be a bit catty, and I love
Maurice Le Bon was his name.
Yeah. But then when you hear his story about his previous lover dying as a member of the resistance, and you go, that's why he's so hard, and that he loves Artie so much. He's like, when he tells a doctor, you don't understand how good that he is.
Yeah.
Artie is special.
Yeah.
And that all gets tied in with the aliens. Yeah. And I just liked so much about it. I like the trick with the white noise where he says, and I'm old enough, remember turntables?
Mm-hmm.
You know, falling asleep when I was a kid, listen to I had a Time Life, Apollo Astron, History of Apollo, man. And it went from the invention of fireworks to Apollo 17. And I listened to it over and over. My father hit it one time because it's like, Christ. I love a good documentary. But, you know, you fall asleep listening to that. The sound design was amazing.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. To say nothing of the music, like I don't know if they, especially the piece that the Artie Berger character plays at the very end as they trap the sound monster.
Yeah, that's
like
we don't really even know what it is. This is a sound monster.
No, but it's a beautiful piece of music, and we have to talk also at some point about the score. I know we've talked about score in other podcasts before, but I think it's Joe Kramer.
Is that the American gentleman?
Yes.
Yeah,
who's a legit movie composer.
He said, so I've listened to it and go, I'm not a musician. Then he goes, well, I worked on this one with.
But he also he does, I think, maybe the best Murray Gold pastiche in
this. Yes, he does.
In this set. Like every time the music swells, you're like, no, that's Murray Gold music. But no, it's not Murray Gold music. This is obviously, you know, the composer has written this for the episode, but he gets it. Which, again,
and Maury Gold's got that John Williams kind of. People complain about Maury Gold, and I'm like, you guys, I'm all for a good score.
Mm-hmm.
In film, I've worked on plays and they want to do it, and I said you can't. It's too distracting. Mm-hmm. But in film, yes, I don't need them to tell me what to feel. Yes, you do. You're not that bright. Let them help.
Yeah. Sorry, no, it's Howard Carter. It's Howard Carter.
But
again, this is a guy who knows exactly what he's doing, and he pulls all the right switches for the music.
And you don't really notice it until you've heard the line and the music or something has gone just a little bit past it, and you go, oh, that's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially on the second run. Oh, I didn't catch that, but you're helping me. And I feel a good score will help you.
Yes.
It'll lift you up. And I like the speech. I like Modern Who for all its speechifying and the
it has some bombast, yes.
Yeah.
I like some bombast.
Because it's like we don't have to worry as much. We're not stuck with 3 cameras in a studio. Let's breathe out. Let's take a big exhale and see the world. And I think the score, and I think this one captures it too, is because the great thing about audio is I get to design my own set. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I could have designed the camera angle, so you know, and that score kind of helps.
And it's crazy how nothing more than script and actors, and you know the score and sound design, and what you were saying earlier, like I see post-war Paris. I see it in my head. I see them in a car at night driving to Notre Dame Cathedral.
All crowded in with the equipment.
I see it. I see it in my head. I see the snow falling. I see the old radios that they're talking about. Like it's such a visual script. This one is.
Yeah,
and Eccleston really, like, his background, he gives you some of that without even really being very what's the word I'm looking for, like exposition about it, but sort of sets a scene for you historically in terms of like post-war Paris, African American musicians traveling to Paris and you know experiencing career success there. Like it's really an incredible. This story just works. The story works.
Let me ask you this: when you watch Doctor Who, do you like the historical set ones? Are they ones you look forward to?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Those are my favorite ones, especially in the era we just concluded, the Jodie era. All of my favorite ones were the historical set ones.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Rosa one was that one I have a hard time watching because when Graham says that one line, "I don't want to be here."
Yep.
It was like, oh man. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I'm a big history nerd, so I like it and it's a time travel show. You need to go in the past. I would hate it when in Old Who, when you're going from future space, alien world all the time, and you never went back to Earth, and you only went back to contemporary Earth where they didn't want, but when they would do the visitation, and it's like, you're the BBC, dude. You got all this stuff in a closet somewhere. Just lean into it, because I think that if you're going to do a time travel show, you need to show past, present, and future in a cycle.
Yeah. Multiple
times. But I love this one because I could see it was dark, it was kind of foggy in the snow and the street lights, and just I could build it all from every Warner Brothers or black and white film set in the 40s in my head. I could steal those images.
Yep.
And planet. It's just wonderful. And the
and
music,
that's the great thing about this story particularly is that this isn't, it does that historical thing where it is a historical, and it does give you some flavor of the time, but it's also not just history tourism. It's not just greatest hits.
I like it when
it's not greatest hits of post-war France. It's like, we're going to this place and you feel where you are. But again, like the first story, like the girl deconstructed in, modern day Scotland, here you're put into these people's lives. Again, it's not just like greatest hits or history tourism. We're in the lived experience of these people. Which is also incredible.
Those are that's a great point, because I really like in the old school when they were doing the historicals, when they weren't part of the event.
Yep.
The Romans, a little bit, they're part of the event, but they're just trying to get out of the event. The Highlanders is just set there. The Smugglers is just set there.
Yep.
And you're having that adventure. Because I think they work better. And what I liked about this one is just what you're saying is, yes, it's set in this environment in this time, and I can see it, but it's not about that.
Yep. And here, again, like for the second story in a row, we get a sort of an invisible monster. But what we're dealing with here in the first story is, family conflict. And here it's grief. Like this is what we're fighting in these two stories is, again, it's like interpersonal conflict, and here it's like, how do we deal with, the loss of people who are very close to us? How do we deal with the loss of, the millions at the end of World War II? How do we deal with, personal loss? Like, I really love this. And this one sort of harkens forward a little bit, because this one's a little bit, to me, sort of rang with the Van Gogh episode, because here you've got a sort of tortured or conflicted, grieving artist who is being beset by a sort of invisible monster that's preying on his weakness.
Yeah, it's great. And also, what I like about it too, because Davies' run is all about grief.
Yeah.
And how the Doctor survives this, thing, and especially with Eccleston. Eccleston really portrayed post-traumatic stress in the series. He didn't wear it on his sleeve, but you knew that his Doctor was broken.
Which is the reputation he gets, though, as someone who wears it on his sleeve. And he doesn't. And you're right, because he does deal with it, and it is definitely a theme, especially of that first season. But one of the good things that these stories do also is, in the middle of that grief, is that he does turn on a dime. He does, cracks really dumb jokes. He makes dumb dad jokes. And I love that about Eccleston Doctor, is that, there is a sadness, and Artie Berger brings it up at the end. He's like, still has that sort of residual sort of psychic energy about him, and he says, but you're still sad, Doctor. And the Doctor's like, wait a second, how do you know I'm sad? Where does that come from? And it's just a sense that he gets, because that's one thing about the Eccleston
Artie
Doctor.
Feels it too. So it's like, I understand you're grieving something. I don't know what it is, but you're. And I like that, because I think his Doctor, the quips and the dad jokes are his defense mechanism.
Yeah. And
I haven't listened to past this, but I kind of want to go, how are they going to, because they're going to do tons of these, because he loves doing them. Yeah. It's like, how do you explain that how long is this grief period before he meets Rose take place? Unless they finally, or they get Billy Piper to do one with him, which I would love.
Well, that's the other thing, and one of the reasons I'm glad that they decided to set these audio adventures before Rose is that by the time he gets to Rose, you get those moments of outrage or anger where he lashes out and he's like, oh, I've gone and found myself with another stupid ape, which means that this Doctor himself has had bad experiences with either short-term or long-term companions pre-Rose.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is how
I hadn't thought about that. I'm a little behind. I haven't listened to anything past old. I haven't even finished Old Friends.
Yeah. No, so, I don't think it's happened yet. I'm just saying that there's
but that's what I'm saying, that there's room to build to that. No, I get you. That's a good idea. It's just because how long has he been traveling solo?
Yeah.
So, but it's great. Let's move on to the last one, which I think is beautiful. I think The Planet of the End by Timothy X. Atack. Atack, thank you.
Yeah.
I love this one. And when it started, I remembered, this is the one I really love, and I love the two before it.
Mm-hmm.
Just the whole concept, the planet, him and the computer, the interface. What did they call her?
Fred.
Fred, that's right, Fred. She's played by Margaret Clooney,
who is more than a match for Eccleston.
Oh my God!
Especially playing a sort of removed but secretly sassy robot.
Secretly sassy. That is the best way to describe her. Because
yes.
when her boss keeps talking, are you becoming sentient?
Are you developing a personality?
No. How can you tell? It's so catty, and I've freaking loved it. She is amazing. I thought of I just watched the Colin Baker Dalek one.
Yes.
The lady that hires Grassini, or the Knight Oberon. Her and her sycophant partner, they're such a good double act. And I kind of thought of the corporate people like that. When you would have these great actors doing just enough camp.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, but it's creepy and it's scary. And their journey when she's got to carry him, when she's got a cybernetic, and she's like a giant robot, which is crazy. Yeah, it is. And that's because you can do it again. It's audio. You can do whatever you want.
Yep.
And I could see him turning into a tree. And
there are some really
great
beautiful images in this
there.
one. There's some really beautiful images, and you're right. This is of the three stories, to have this as the final one seems a bit strange because it's such a weird story. Like it doesn't have a sort of traditional narrative structure. It's like it's more or less a two-hander for most of the play. It is just the Doctor and Fred talking to each other, and he is like still. Like, he's just standing there for most of the story.
Oh, yeah. What I liked is when he's talking to the leadership inside the frame, I saw it in 1980s Who special effects. They're standing and there's this shit CSO for the Barry Lots era behind them with these 80s disco waves going behind them and them talking, and I loved it. That's exactly how I saw it. I saw him talking to them and then cutting back to the tree where he's got all the hair and the flowers. Mm-hmm. Oh God! When he comes human again, and he realizes he's hairy. She goes,
"He looks like a wizard."
I tried to prune you.
No, it's beautiful, and there's a real intimacy and tenderness in that relationship between Fred and the Doctor, especially when he is, basically standing stock still for like 90 years.
Yeah, I love to play with time too. This is a show about time travel, people.
Yep. Timothy Atack. It's funny. Tim Foley, who wrote the last story, calls this guy Better Tim in the behind the scenes stuff.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say one way or the other that Tim Atack is a phenomenal writer. If you haven't heard, the first Big Finish I heard of his, I think was his first Big Finish, was a second Doctor story called The Wreck of the World with, I think it's Jamie and Polly maybe? Or maybe it's Jamie and Ben and Polly and the second Doctor.
I'm pulling it up because I love.
But that story, like again, it was not a traditional. It was not a traditional narrative. It did not have a traditional sort of arc. Like this is Tim Atack, as far as I know, is a very established playwright, and you can tell like the work that he's putting in terms of like how the way he knows the characters, but also the way he plays with narrative structure, narrative form, the way he plays with time. The things he can do in audio.
It's Zoe and Jamie.
Okay, that's my bad. It's been a while. But I can see that. I can picture the cover in my head because it's like
because it looks like it comes right out of
it.
It looks like it comes right out of his last season.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I love these early adventure ones. I like it when Fraser Hines does the voice. I also like it when Michael Troughton does it. Yep. I'm a huge fan of those.
Definitely recommend to the listeners, if y'all haven't heard The Wreck of the World by Timothy X. Atack, go find it. Look for it, put it on your wish list. Next time it's on sale, it's brilliant. And this story is also brilliant. And it just reminded me of listening to that first one.
Yeah, that's why that was so good. It's directed by. I'm looking back at that one. It's directed by Lisa Bowerman.
Okay.
And she's one of my favorite Big Finish directors. I think she's up there with Richardson. Mm-hmm. And Louise Jameson too. There's some.
Well, we got to put some flowers on the name of Helen Goldwyn for this set because she directed this set. This was her first set for the Ninth Doctor. As far as I know, I don't think I think Nick Briggs did the first set.
He did it, yeah.
But she, like, again, the talent that she assembled for this, the getting them all to work together, especially I think that some of this was done during.
This is a pandemic.
Pandemic.
Yeah.
So having to wrangle various voices from various locations, especially all the people like calling in from Scotland in the first story. And directing, I think Eccleston was probably one of the few people that was actually in studio for these.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah, I think that's
Helen Goldwyn did an extraordinary job directing all of these.
I think, yeah, this is one of those sets where it's like a perfect storm.
Yep.
Of talent, because we were talking before that I said about this. These all could be the final one in a box set.
In a box set. Yep.
In any box set, because some box sets have. I kind of like. The I think 3 is better than. I've found that I like the 3 story sets better. I think you get a better quality. You get a better. You just. It's like I don't like the 20 episode TV season anymore. I kind of found when they shrunk TV down to 10, I went, ooh, that's the right number, because you don't get that turd. Mm-hmm. I don't think you get a turd in Big Finish, but I think you sometimes get, that's...
The quality can be variable, but that's what's so, like, listening to these again these last couple weeks, it's really remarkable. Like, these are, like you said, these are box set enders, all 3 of them. And I think that one of the things was that they talk about in the behind the scenes that, they made the announcement that they got Christopher Eccleston and, within a day of being about to make that announcement, like, started putting out feelers for these writers. So, I mean, I think they assembled, and that's what's really telling about this particular set, is that I feel like they put together an A-team.
Yeah, I think they did.
These are your best writers, and especially Tim Foley, listen to the behind the scenes on his, and you can tell listening to Fright Motif. You can tell, because that story is so polished. It's so beautiful. It works so well. As you were saying, like, the characters, even the Zazie character and the Maurice character, who are constantly bickering with each other, have that sort of lived-in relationship sort of feel, even though they're like recent acquaintance.
Yeah.
Tim Foley talks in the behind the scenes that this is a story that he has been, thinking about and working on for years, and you can tell, like you're coming with your A material for this particular box set.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm looking at the credits for this box set. You got David Richardson, who I like as a producer, Matt Fitton as a script editor, and then these writers and Helen Goldwyn directing. Goldwyn, yeah. It's amazing. It is just so polished. And I to be honest, I hadn't listened to it in a while. And when I was pulling up, seeing what I had to do next, getting the schedule together, and I smashed the phone this week, so I had to reload Big Finish onto my phone. So nothing that I had downloaded was on the app was downloaded. So I just went and looked at what was. What the sets were, and I'm doing that right now, folks, while I'm talking, because it made me go, well, I need to catch up. I've got a few more. Yeah, I've listened to Lost Warriors, which
is good. It's very good.
Using Metropolis and Cybermen, that's
a great story.
But I haven't listened to Old Friends at all.
That one's really, really good. That one I think has a story by Roy Gill that'll knock your socks off. A two-parter, if I remember correctly.
And let me see. Oh, no. Barney Edwards directs Lost Warriors. Okay, it's got Cybermen in it. That makes sense. And let me see who does Old Friends. See, I'm just kind of seeing how they break these up. Helen Goldwyn. So, they're doing. I think Briggs just did it by himself because he had to convince his friend.
Well, I mean, I think there was that, but also I think that, being the sort of head honcho there and the creative director, like, he knows that he can get a script out very quickly, because that was the thing. The other thing they talk about in the behind the scenes is, like, once you know you have him, and you know you have him when you have him, like, you have to get material done. And so I think that first Ravager set, like, they got it done as quickly as they did because Nick was like, well, I don't have to, there's a script editor obviously, but, like, he knows he has an idea.
I've got 4 or 5 stories bouncing around in my head. I can get 3 knocked out. And it could be just so many, and I like bit parts of it. I kind of feel like I bash Ravengers because I know they can do. It's like a parent. Yeah. It's a beautiful picture I'm going to put on the refrigerator, but I know you can do better.
And that's the thing about this set is that the leap in quality. And again, I agree with you. I'm not going to bash Ravagers. It was, it's 3 more hours of Eccleston, and I'm never going to kick that.
Yeah,
out
that
of
was no. I was
I'm never
happy
gonna kick
just
that out
because
of
I
bed.
didn't think we'd ever get it.
Yep. And so, but to know that this was the next one to come out, like, again, the leap in quality is it's night and day. Like, this is such an like in the way that Ravagers was sort of like, you can sort of see it from a distance. Like, there's all kinds of like clever plot stuff happening, lots of clever time stuff, whatever. Like, again, these 3 stories, especially the third one with a giant robot, giant sassy robot, and the Doctor for an hour talking to each other. Like, there is, as weird and strange and out there as that is, all 3 of these stories are so grounded and they're so realistic. The relationships are so believable. They're so intimate. They're so real. They're so moving.
Yeah.
Which again is crazy that especially here in this last story, the Planet of the End, where the sort of climax scene is a giant robot, a limp Christopher Eccleston over in the corner, and a dead rabbit, and I'm like, what is going on here? Why am I moved by this?
Oh my God, when the bunny died, oh my God, that was like, that's not cool, dude. It's a bunny. What horrible people. I do, and what I also want, one last thing, let's get kind of overall, I want to bring this up.
Yes. Yes.
They also feel like, and I don't know if this was an intentional, is that everyone we're hearing is a tryout for a companion. You're waiting for the Doctor and the cop to go off. You're waiting for him not to go off with Artie, but to go off with the girl with a double bass. I could see a girl with a double bass in the control room. Yeah. Or
Gemma Whelan, and we haven't spoken of Gemma Whelan at all.
I'm going to say some stuff about her.
Okay,
because,
good.
If I lived in that country, there'd be a restraining order.
Yeah.
No, not a big kid. She's happy, I will say this, and I've said it in the podcast before. Bring back the Monk and use Rufus Hound and use Gemma Whelan. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
They're both so good.
Oh God, the Missy set where they're in, and it's the 3 of them, and those 2 are just poor. You're like, I feel for Missy. I really do. But
to say nothing of Dalek Universe, because she was lights out in Dalek Universe.
Oh my God! I love Dalek Universe.
Absolutely.
I thought I was going to hate it. I really thought I was going to hate it, and I loved it. But they all could be traveling companions.
Yep.
And
that's the other great
it's intentional?
I mean, it could be. I mean, there's one thing about like that one of the sort of themes. You were saying like this box set doesn't sort of seem to have an overarching arc narrative or a theme or anything like cohesive in that way, but it sort of does.
Yeah,
like there are those.
I think it does.
It's people who feel displaced. It's people who feel dispossessed, which is a great joke in that first one, where the Doctor says, the voice of the dispossessed, and the missing persons officer is like, do you mean like the oppressed? Which I thought was just a great line to throw in there. But like, there's a sense in which these are people who are sort of, they feel out of place. They're away from home. They don't have connections. And so, I think that there's a sense definitely for the Ninth Doctor as someone who, if he were to have a companion, that was the kind of companion he'd have, are people like real people with real problems, like, that have real lives. And I think, I think you're right. I think that there is a sense of that, because even at the very end, he even invites Fred.
Yeah, and she
says, I said I don't really like, I'm more or less traveling alone, but if you want to come with me. Which, I mean, I feel like that's a big move for the Eccleston Doctor.
It is, and I like how she goes, I think I need to discover myself.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because, there's that thing in Doctor Who, the endings, I'm always a little rough on the endings. When companions leave sometime, it's like, it's pretty traumatic to begin with, but you don't really see them leave like Joe does and Martha does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's been fun.
Yeah.
But someone else needs me.
And I think that's again, like, you're right. I think there is a sort of sense that these are companion tryouts, but there's no real, obviously Zazie is there with Artie, and they need each other in post-war France. Marnie, when she's reunited with her father, they've got work to do on their own relationship. And, Fred, I just love that line also at the end. That one, I might cry saying it out loud, but she's like, she says, what am I supposed to do with all this? And the Doctor's like, all this what? And she's like, what am I supposed to do with all this life? And that's
It's a
man,
great.
what a blockbuster way to end a box set. Like, but again, like she's got Fred, the now living giant necropolis robot.
Yeah, it's
has her own work to do, and that I think is a great thing about this box set, is that the Doctor leaves these people who have been either broken or disaffected or detached from what anchors them, left them in a place where they can start to explore new anchors, new routes.
Yeah, I like.
And that's the great thing also about that image of him growing there in the necropolis, turning into a tree, is like, these are stories of people who are putting down roots. They're stories of people who are growing.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's just the quality is so good, and that is a great. There's a great moments in these things, and they're all real. And I hadn't really put that thing together about they're all people about. They're also people coming to terms with their environment.
Yep.
Like something. My life isn't great, but this is a good place for me. This is where I belong.
Yep.
A sense of belonging, which is, you see people who don't feel it in the world, and to have someone, and like in the line you said, to say, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
Before I was just here.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm here because I want to be here.
Yep. And there's like a reason to be there.
Yes, it's a great transformation. It's really, it's raining as hell here, so I haven't got my weekend walk in. And I've got some issues with one of my feet. But I was thinking I might do the next set.
Yeah.
Or I might skip to Old Friends because I haven't listened to it, because this was so good, and I went, oh my God.
Yeah, this set, Ross, this set is so high quality. I'm so grateful to be able to talk to you about this. Like, and we didn't even talk. I want to make a little shout out before we finish, also to Damian Lynch, who plays Artie Berger, the musician in Fright Motif.
Mm-hmm.
He is in another. I first heard him. He did a First Doctor story, sort of companion chronicle, I think, called An Ordinary Life. And that was with Gene Marsh and Peter Purvis.
When they're marooned and
they get stuck
with the aliens and the Windrush folks. Oh my God, that was such a good one. I love those ones. Those companion with, because Peter Purvis, he nails Hartnell.
He is fantastic. He's so good.
And I love Gene Marsh. I am of that generation. Upstairs, downstairs, man. We watched that. Mom said, "Yeah, we ain't watching what you want. Disney's over, baby. We watching this."
But yeah, An Ordinary Life, that's another big recommendation. Like that one, and again, like it just brings home that, especially in Fright Motif, being that sort of middle story of the three, like, and this is not to disparage the other two stories in this set, because we've talked about how good the quality of the cast is. But Fright Motif, like, the cast in that story it's God tier.
It's really above. It's
with Gemma Whelan, Damian Lynch, and who is it that plays Morris? His name's Adrian Schiller, and Christopher Eccleston. Like, to have those four actors in that story, like, it is again, Helen Goldwyn as the director has put together for all three of these stories really top-notch casts.
Yeah, it's amazing, because they're basically just doing there's a whole big chunk in the middle of that, probably from the middle to the end, where the four of them are just together.
Yeah.
And they're just, it's going from one actor to the other, and it is just so beautiful to hear how good a performance they give, and that you forget when you're listening to it that you're not in the room with them.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the thing. That was a story where I was like doing dishes, and I was stopping. My wife came in and goes, "What are you doing?" Oh, just listen. And go back, because I was kind of paused for a minute. Well,
that's the other thing, is like, these are not only good actors, they're also really good voice talents, because Gemma Whelan, she has that very strong accent in her Game of Thrones work. She has an equally sort of strong but different accent as the sort of meddling monk in the Dalek universe.
God, I didn't even realize it was her at first.
I know, that's the thing.
Because it's that high. It's got this little high pitched squeal.
Do the cast list, and you're like, whoa, yes. Of course that was Gemma. Of course that. And Damian Lynch, like I was saying, in An Ordinary Life, plays a sort of Caribbean accent. I think the character in that one may be from Jamaica, but
Jamaica,
again,
Barbados,
these people are doing not only good actors, but to be able to do that much, to go that broad with your accent and give a really profound performance. That's it's something else.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just love this set. I cannot recommend it enough. Well, folks, let's. Any final thoughts? Is there anything we didn't touch upon?
I think by this point, I think I've said pretty much everything that's been on my mind. But I just, forgive me for crying on your podcast earlier. But like,
oh no, I get that. I'm the person. My wife goes, you don't cry, but it's like, yeah, I do. The really sentimental things. I'm the guy that at the end of Field of Dreams loses it.
But that's the great thing about these stories is that not only are you sort of trying to evoke the Russell T Davies era, but that in each story you almost get an evocation. Like you almost go through an entire era for each story. Like they're the stories are so involving, they're so gripping, they're so emotionally investing that you have when the Doctor drops in on someone's life and makes these changes, or introduces them to these strange new concepts. Like you get the sense through all these stories that it's less the Doctor's work and more that he is there as a sort of spur to action for the changes that these characters go through on their own.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that.
That's a great point.
It's not over the top sci-fi bombast, crazy alien stuff happening for the sake of crazy alien stuff.
No, it's about the crazy alien stuff is just a vehicle to tell the story about the characters, which is what I like about modern Who.
Yep.
Most of the time when they do it well, and I think they do it really well. This is better than This is as good as any of the TV shows I've ever heard.
Agreed.
It's that good, and I'm looking forward to more of it. Well, folks, Melvin, what else? Do you got anything to recommend it for the folks, or what you're doing? I'm losing it. This has been a long day.
I can tell.
Oh, I had a rough week, folks, and yesterday was a very long day. And I'm glad I had this to listen to because it's not been a good past 10 days. So I had some good comics to talk about, some good Doctor Who to talk about. But do you have anything you want to?
Yeah, my big recommendation right now is I have been listening to a ton. It's a guitarist that I really love named Steve Gunn, with 2 N's. I listen to a lot of his stuff. He has a group called the Gunn Trusinski Duo, and they release records on Three Lobed Records, which is out of North Carolina. They've got a record called Soundkeeper that came out a couple years ago that I cannot stop listening to. Steve Gunn just came through and played in Durham a couple weeks ago, and I went and saw that. And so I've been listening to, and most of the stuff with his other group is instrumental. But his stuff under his own name, Steve Gunn, like Way Out Weather, I really recommend. I've been listening to a lot of that this week. Just love his voice. Really great guitarist. Sort of really chill vibes. Lovely emotive lyrics. Can't get enough of it.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yep. Highly recommend anything Steve Gunn is into. And yesterday was the 10th anniversary, I think, of another collaborative record he did with Mike Taylor of Hiss Golden Messenger, who's from here in Durham also. But that record is called Golden Gun, and I cannot recommend that one highly enough either. Gorgeous music.
All right, I just saved him on my Spotify.
Get it done.
Yeah, all right. All right, folks, I don't have anything really to recommend because I'm just reading a lot of comics. I'm reading the Fantastic Four in order from 1 because I've never read the Stan and Jack stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All of it. I've read the big. I've gotten the greatest hits.
I read Volume 1 of the Marvel Masterworks like a year and a half ago. Absolutely phenomenal.
I just got the first 4 omnibus. So the first one is the first 30 issues in an annual, and a lot of them I read. I just read the introduction of the Watcher.
So fun.
Oh, it's so good. And I'm watching Kirby go from kind of little rough to what I know he ends up at. And the 4th volume gets right to about the time I started. I didn't read it until it was Roy and John Buscema were doing it. So a lot of this.
And I only read that first omnibus because I really wanted to read the who was it? I think Matt Fraction did a run on Fantastic Four with the All Reds.
Oh yeah. Where the main 4 were out. We're in Hickman's book.
Oh my God, that was such a riot.
I loved it. I love that. That's an omnibus I really want to get, and I don't think it's that expensive. I want to get both of those because I love Mike Aldred, and I love that lineup. To have Medusa. Yes. Oh my God. I got the 2 John Byrne omnibus this year too. I do love his run. So, but I'm not the biggest fan. There are eras of FF I like. but I haven't read all of them, so that's kind of why I'm doing
so
it.
good.
So.
That was so good.
All right, folks. Well, next week, hold on, I had to pull up my list because I can't remember, because I'm doing these things incredibly out of order. Next week will be The Runaway Bride, and my guest will be Mark Cockrum from All of Time and Space. And then after that, my wife, Leslie, is going to watch Impossible Astronaut and which one of the moon is that is. It's as long as it's not Kill the Moon.
Day of the Moon.
Day of the Moon. As long as it's not Kill the Moon. But she hasn't watched much Doctor Who at all, so
I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of just let her talk. And then I've already recorded Last Christmas, luckily with Ian from All of Time and Space and Mark McManus from Trap One. And I've got special guests for The Woman Who Fell to Earth. And I'm looking forward to all of this. And as always, folks, be good out there, and we look forward to seeing you somewhere in time or space.